development, what initiatives did the government take at the national level? So let us look at some of these initiatives. First of all, we would try looking at the Ministry of Tribal Affairs. Then in the second chapter, we would go into the National Commission for, for STs, for the scheduled tribes. Then we would look into the organization and the conduct of NSTFDC, National Scheduled Tribe Finance Development Corporation, and then we look at what TriFed is doing. Tribal Cooperative Marketing Federation is basically doing to bring about tribal development, right? Development in administration. So let me check where I need to put emphasis upon. Let us start from here. Very briefly, Ministry of Tribal Affairs, how it came about, what was its vision, mission, and all, etc., etc. To facilitate the reduction and removal of gap in human development indices, human development we have already, discussed, of the STs vis-a-vis the general population, and empower them socially, economically, and politically, and enabling them to exercise effective control over their own life, their natural resource base, and to make them informed and to give them informed choices. The Ministry of Tribal Affairs came about, right? So Ministry of Tribal Affairs basically came about to empower the tribal life, the tribal populace, right? The tribal population, to empower them socially, to empower them economically, to empower them politically. All right. Now, if we look at the organization setup, the Ministry of Tribal Affairs functions under the overall guidance of the Union Cabinet Minister and a Minister of State. We're not getting into this. There are 37 group. We are not getting into this. Okay, we will right away we would get. Just remember that Ministry of Tribal Affairs functions under the overall guidance of a Union Cabinet Minister and a Minister of State. All right. Then schemes and programs. The Ministry of Tribal Affairs has its own schemes and programs. Okay, let us look at some of this. First one, special area programs. Right, under special area programs comes special central assistance for tribal subplan. We have already discussed in the first and second chapters. First chapter, in fact, special central assistance for tribal subplan. How the government determines what proportion of investments should go into the tribal subplan. It is based on tribal population which is available in a particular subplan, in a particular area. Right? So, as per the number of population existing in a certain state, in a certain region, in a certain district, in a certain panchayat, maybe in a certain block, the money gets transferred under special central assistance for tribal subplan. Grants under provision of Article 275(1) of the Constitution, and then we have the lump sum provision for areas. Special central assistance for tribal area subplan, this we have already discussed. Then grants and the provision of Article 275(1), we'll be looking into this, and lump sum provision for Northeast India. The 8 states of Northeast India, the government has separate provisions, considering that a huge percentage of the tribal population resides in Northeast India. All right. So we have different assistance coming in from the central government, all 8 states in Northeast India. So SCA to TSP, how it evolved, how it came about. Now, 1974-75, the central assistance, basically special central assistance was evolved to the tribal subplan in 1974-75, and it is given to all states and union territories across the country. Why? To supplement their efforts in tribal development through tribal subplans. You make certain tribal subplans for health, for education, for sanitation, for women, for child in their areas, and you get the money component for it as per the population and spend it agriculture activities, horticulture, minor irrigation, soil conservation, animal husbandry, forest, education, cooperatives, fisheries, village, small-scale industries, and this has been now expanded, to cover employment, income generation activities, and the infrastructure. Infrastructure, initially it was not a part of special assistance scheme, but now it is a part of special assistance scheme as well. All right. Then the grant under SCA to TSP is provided to the state governments, based on the annual budget allocation of the ministry made by Planning Commission. Okay, the grant is treated as supplementary to the state plan. State already has a plan for tribal development, and this is something extra, supplementary to the state plan, where state provisions are not normally forthcoming to bring about economic development of tribal communities. It might be that states are lagging behind because its revenue generation is not up to the mark. It is not able to spend for tribal development. Then the center would come in. The central government would come in with SCA grant. Right? So SCA is basically released on 100% basis. That means if the state needs 100 rupees for a certain activity in the tribal areas to carry out a certain activity in tribal areas, center would give 100 rupees only. It is not like the state needs to contribute something out of that 100 rupees. No. Right? So this is given basically for economic development of integrated tribal development projects, agencies, then modified area development approach, pockets, clusters of what? Clusters concerning livelihoods, clusters concerning entrepreneurial activities, right? Then particularly vulnerable tribal groups and dispersed tribal population. Right? So SCA is basically released for these areas, for these groups, and these kind of activities. Okay, then let us go to grants under Article 275 of the Constitution. Under 275 of the Constitution, 100% grant is given to the states and union territories to create and upgrade, infrastructure in critical areas such as education, health, forest, drinking water, electrification, communication, rural marketing, agriculture, animal husbandry, etc., etc. So there is little difference between the previous SCA grant and grant under 75(1) of the Constitution, 275(1) of the Constitution. The earlier one also considers livelihood and infrastructure. This one also considers basically livelihoods and infrastructure, along with processing of minor forest. MFPs means minor forest produce, right? This grant considers all this. This grant considers all this. All right. But there is a point here. You should remember, when we consider grants under Article 275(1) of the Constitution, and if we're talking about giving facility to this grant to 100 people, 30 out of them should be women. At least 30% of the projects should be, the women oriented, and 30%. If we are implementing 100 projects, 30 projects should be women oriented. Should be for the women, exclusively for the women. Right? Northeastern states. As a matter of policy, since independence, this is there. Even now, it continues. All central ministries, departments are required to earmark at least 10% of their budget allocation for specific programs for the development of northeastern states. Right? All ministries in the center are required to keep aside 10% of their budget allocation for specific programs for the development of northeastern states. Accordingly, Ministry of Tribal Affairs releases at least 10%, and usually in excess of, usually even more than 10%, of its budget allocation as grants to the 8 states in Northeast India under various schemes, under central sector schemes, under centrally sponsored schemes, right? So under different schemes, at least 10% of the money comes from the center to the states in Northeast India. This is termed as special grants for northeastern states. They are carried forward, they are grants, they are not non-lapsable. This year, if you cannot you cannot finish the amount which has been given to you, it can be carried forward to the next financial year. If it is not utilized this year, suppose they give you 1 crore and you have failed to utilize, suppose Assam has failed to utilize 1 crore under a particular scheme this year, it has only utilized 50 crores. Say, or 50 lakhs out of 1 crore. So next year, the other 50 lakhs can be spent next year, right? This provision is also there under the special grant for northeastern states. Then comes schemes for education of upliftment of the STs. Different schemes have come about to, for betterment of the education facilities in the ST areas, in the scheduled tribe areas. Right? Some of these schemes are mentioned here, like granting aid to NGOs for STs, including coaching and allied schemes and awards for exemplary services. Strengthening of education among ST girls in low literary districts. Rajiv Gandhi National Fellowship for ST students. Scheme of top class education for ST students. Scheme of Institute of Excellence or Top Class Institute, right? National Overseas Scholarship Scheme. Scheme of post-matric scholarship, book bank, upgradation of merit of FC students, right? Then pre-matric scholarship for ST students, upgradation of merit of ST students, establishment of ashram schools, scheme of hostels for ST girls and boys, then research, information and mass education, tribal festival and others, right? Vocational training centers in tribal areas. All these have been implemented to bring about better quality education, to take better quality education to the tribal areas, or to facilitate better quality education to the tribals who comes out for educating themselves in the with the mainland people, with the people who are developing, or people who have societies who have already developed in the country. All right. Each of these schemes, some of these schemes, not each, some of these schemes are again given in detail. We are not getting into this. You can go through and know about these schemes. Then coaching for STs. This is not post matrix. We are not getting into this. The schemes are discussed here. Okay. There is one specific scheme called Scheme of Development of particularly vulnerable tribal groups, poorest of the poor, based on pre-agricultural level of technology, low level of literacy. These are the human development indices which are considered when we term certain area or certain group as as PTGs, participatory vulnerable tribal groups. They lag behind in terms of agriculture, in terms of technology, in terms of use of technology in agriculture, in terms of attaining literacy rate, in terms of stagnant population, in terms of so many other factors can come about. All socio-economic factors can come about where they are performing very, very, very poorly. Right? So 75 tribal communities in 17 states of the country and one union territory of Andaman and Nicobar Island have been identified and categorized as particularly vulnerable tribal groups. They are particularly vulnerable. That means they are poorest of the poor. They are lagging behind on all socio-economic development indicators. Right? And they are called primitive tribal groups. Okay. Now, considering their vulnerabilities, their lacunas, their lag behinds, where they are lagging behind, right? A central sector scheme was introduced in the year 1998-99 for all-round development of these groups. Right? This scheme is very flexible and covers housing, infrastructure development, education, health, distribution, agriculture, cattle development, social security, etc., etc. Okay, and during 2007-8, comprehensive long-term conservation cum development plans for these particularly, tribal vulnerable groups was formed for during the 11th plan period through baseline surveys. And these plans, and we say synergy to bring about synergy between efforts of the state governments and NGOs. So NGOs, they are working parallelly, but state government, this particular scheme wanted the NGOs to be more into addressing the problems of this particular vulnerable groups in the tribal societies. All right. We move on. Tribal research institutes, there are 14 tribal research institutes in the country, set up by state governments, and these state governments are, it is given here, Andhra Pradesh, Assam, Bihar, Gujarat, Kerala, Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra, Orissa, Rajasthan, Tamil Nadu, West Bengal, Uttar Pradesh, Manipur, and Tripura. So these states have these tribal research institutes, and these institutes are basically engaged in providing planning inputs to the government. What kind of plans should go into the tribal areas, what are their needs, how to codify their customary law, how to conduct training among them, seminars, workshops. They are empowering both the government officials. These TRIs are empowering the government officials in getting into how the government officials should act and implement the plans in the tribal areas. At the same time, they are also looking into providing planning inputs to the state governments for carrying out the development process and the administrative process, in a proper manner in the tribal areas, right? Then comes the TriFed, Tribal Cooperative Marketing Development Federation of India Limited. TriFed is basically a marketing body, right? It is a marketing body. It came about in the year 1987, providing marketing assistance and remunerative prices to ST communities. See, the ST communities, we have been reiterating again and again that they have their own culture, own traditions, own motifs, own beautiful motifs, own designs. They have their own clothing styles. So to market their produce, to market their products outside, we need to have a platform. And TriFed is a platform which, since 1987, has been promoting the products from the tribal belts of the country, among the mainstream people, among the developed societies or developing societies in the country. This is a platform which is creating a connect between the products which are made by the tribals, manufactured by the tribals, and giving a market to them, right? Giving a market to them. So initially it was established, to cater to the ST communities in selling their produce from minor forest produce and surplus agricultural products, to take them away from the exploitative middleman. So this platform was created so that the middleman stop exploiting. Middlemen go away from the picture. They stop exploiting the tribal people in getting things from them at a very, very minimal cost and selling it at a high price outside, right? So this federation of marketing development, is a national level cooperative apex body functioning under the Multi-State Cooperative Societies Act 1984. So TriFed, it is a national level cooperative body, and it is functioning under the Multi-State Cooperative Societies Act 1984. And we are not discussing this share capital and all. It is not required. So basically, please remember, this is helping to increase the volume of procurement of the minor forest products from the tribal, at remunerative prices, at good prices, justified prices, without exploiting them, unlike the middleman, right? So they are also helping in construction of godowns, warehouses, where to keep their manufactured goods. Then establishing processing industries, giving them technology connect, infusion of technology, R&D activities, research and development activities, to the different state tribal development corporations and societies. All right. So this is what TriFed is doing. Now let us come to NSTFDC, National Scheduled Tribes Finance and Development Corporation. This came in the year 2001, and it has been serving as a catalyst for financing, facilitating, and mobilizing funds from various sources for promoting economic development activities of the STs, who are living below the poverty line, much below the poverty line, right? So it has come up. NSTFDC has come up with various schemes and policies. If you open the website of NSTFDC, you can come across various schemes and policies which are aimed at creating self-help groups, then urging them to come up with entrepreneurial activities, come up with enterprises, all exclusive women enterprises, tribal enterprises, coming up with livelihoods which can help them earn a living, right? So NSTFDC is doing a lot across the country, for the tribal areas, right? Then there is this concept called village grain banks. Grain banks earlier, now we have the concept of seed banks now. Seed banks where we are trying to, because we are talking about organic cultivation, we are talking about preserving the seeds, the organic seeds by way of seed banks. Earlier, a couple of years back, we used to talk about village grain banks. Uh, Collectivization of grains. Bringing them at a common point. They were established in tribal villages in many states in 1998 and thereafter, with a view to store food grains. As a safety measure against starvation deaths. ST population, they have had a record of starvation deaths, right? So that no one needs to die out of starvation, out of hunger. This concept of village grain banks, came about for improving not only for, giving them a right to live, but also giving them some nutritional standards, among the children and women who are living in the remotest and backward tribal villages in the country, and who are prone to starvation. Okay. Then again, a couple of schemes are there. I'm not getting into all this. Development of forest areas. No. Then okay, let's skip this. I think you can understand by just giving a look into this. Monitoring evaluation studies. Uh, Let us get into this. Who are the scheduled tribes? We have been talking about the administrative and development arrangements for the ST population, right? The scheduled tribes. So who are the scheduled tribes? What place the Constitution of India has given them? Why are we calling them scheduled tribes? How did this nomenclature come about? What provisions are there in the Constitution to give them a status in the country? Let us briefly look into this. The term scheduled tribe, it first appeared in the Constitution of India under Article 366(25). And they are under and this particular article, under Article 366(25), scheduled tribes are basically defined as tribes or tribal communities or parts of groups within such tribes or tribal communities as are deemed under Article 342, 342, to be scheduled tribes for the purpose of the Constitution. Right? So scheduled tribes are basically recognized under Article 342 of the Constitution, and they are given a definition under Article 366(25) of the Constitution. Please remember this. Article 342 of the Constitution, the definition of scheduled tribe finds a place under Article 342 of the Constitution, and then Article 366(25) goes to define who can be called a scheduled tribe. Right? Now, okay. This is not needed. Let us move ahead. I think this you can understand. If you read through, you can understand how constitutionally how this scheduled tribe status came about. Okay, so name of authors, date of notification, then when the states took the recognition of scheduled tribes across different states came about, right, in the Constitution. So these are some of the orders through which the scheduled tribes are recognized across different states across the country. Okay, then not getting into this. Okay, then let us come to this. What is a scheduled area? We know what a scheduled tribe is. Now let us come to this. What is a scheduled area? Right? A scheduled area has been defined in the Indian Constitution as areas as President by order, the Honorable President of India may by order declare to be a scheduled area. So all areas, if you talk about Northeast, if I talk that Nagaland is a scheduled tribe state, Meghalaya, Mizoram are scheduled tribe states, they are basically declared, by the President of India. Right? Paragraph 6 of the 5th schedule of the Constitution prescribes the procedure for scheduling, rescheduling, and altering the scheduled tribe areas, the scheduled areas. right? And the criteria followed for declaring an area as scheduled area are, they are decided beforehand. Preponderance of what is the tribal population. These are the things which are taken into consideration before deciding which area to be declared, a tribal area. The tribal population, the compactness, the size of the area, the underdeveloped nature of the area, the disparity in terms of economic standards of the area, right? All these are taken into consideration before declaring an area as a scheduled area or scheduled tribe area, right? Then, okay, we move on. I'm not getting into this.
Ma'am,
Yes, yes,
I
yes.
do have a question.
Yeah.
So some tribal groups, like for instance,
Declared by the President of India based on certain criteria taken into consideration, starting from from the population, the size of the area, the economic development, etc., etc. Right. So you are talking about some areas which are under this Scheduled Areas Act. Some areas in Maharashtra which are not under the Scheduled Areas Act, they are considered as OBCs, other backward classes. But then they are, they are maybe they are very very I should say very very, in terms of poverty, maybe they are very poor, right? This is what I understand. What two things can be done here? One, uh, can something be done about to bring to the notice of the government of India that even for these people, whom government of India has not considered as, bringing them under the Scheduled Areas Act, can they be brought under the Scheduled Areas Act? That is one.
yes, ma'am.
Secondly, yes, secondly, if we consider that they are OBCs and we need to uplift their life, their livelihoods, being OBCs, then we need to fall back upon the provisions, the schemes, the policies which are there for the other backward classes in the country, right? As I have talked about NSTF-DC, right? For OBCs also there is a national commission, national body for the other backward classes as well, right? NBCFDC, National Backward Classes and Finance Development Corporation. So as we have an NSTFDC, we also have an NBCFDC. So why not, take help from NBCFDC, their schemes and policies, because they are already termed as OBCs. So why not call in the NBCFDC to help the people out there, through different schemes and policies, so that they can better their lives, they can better their livelihoods, and they can better the other indicators, in terms of which, they can come up, they can have a respectable place in terms of having a sustainable livelihood in that area. Can that be done?
Ma'am, but the problem is like for like a whaling education, there is
We were talking about the scheduled areas, right? Scheduled areas. So now when we talk about tribal areas are generally areas having maximum number of tribal population, preponderance of tribal population, right? However, the Constitution of India refers tribal areas within the states of Assam, Meghalaya, Tripura, and Mizoram, as those areas are specified in Part 1, 2, 2A, and 3 of the of the table given here under the sixth schedule, right, under the sixth schedule. In other words, where provisions of sixth schedule are applicable, they are also known as tribal areas. In Northeast, we have the provision of sixth schedule, and all sixth schedule areas are tribal areas in Northeast India, right? And in the six scheduled areas, in these areas, we have the autonomous district council, each having not more than 30 members, like a panchayat committee, or like a, some administration at the block level, at the district level. In the autonomous district councils, there are administrations manned by at least 30 people, right? And these councils, they serve as an instrument of self-management and have powers of legislation. All legislative powers and administrative powers are vested upon them. They can do justice, they can give justice, from the executive point of view, from development point of view, and from financial point of view. So they have all powers, be it executive, be it developmental, or be it financial responsibilities, right? And a list of, part 1, part 2, which are the districts, which are the states, it's given here. I think this is not, you can just go through. Very quickly, Forest Rights Act. Ministry of Tribal Affairs is implementing the Scheduled Tribe and Other Traditional Forest Dwellers Act 2006, which recognizes and vests the forest rights and occupation in forest land in forest dwelling among the among the ST people and other traditional forest dwellers who have been residing in such forest areas for generations. Okay, and the salient features. Let us come to the salient features of this act. The occupation of forest land up to an area of 4 hectares, maximum 4 hectares, can be recognized under Forest Rights Act, right? An area of maximum up to 4 hectares, right, in spread can be considered under Forest Rights Act. Number 2, the rights are heritable but not alienable or transferable. The tribals have forest, they have forest rights, right? These rights are heritable. They can be inherited from father to son, from grandfather to son, from father to son, right? They can be inherited, but they are not alienable or transferred. They cannot be alienated, cut off, or they cannot be transferred. They cannot be transferred from a tribal person to a non-tribal person or person who is living outside the forest area delineated. Right. Third, persons living in and dependent on forest for livelihood shall be eligible. Who will be eligible under this Forest Right Act? Who can use the forest? Persons living in that particular area and who are dependent on forest for livelihoods, for their food security. Right. Fourth, responsibility of protection of wildlife, forest, and biodiversity has been assigned with the forest dwellers. Who are the forest dwellers here? The tribals, right? So they are responsible for protecting the wildlife, the forest, and the biodiversity, under the Forest Rights Act in which they live. So these are the 4 salient features of the Forest Right Act. Please remember this. If you have a question like what is the Forest Right Act, and then what are the salient, discuss the salient features of the Forest Right Act, you need to discuss this, right? So this is the chapter 1, unit 2. Okay, chapter 2, we are moving on to National Commission for Scheduled Tribes. So we have seen at the ministry level, Ministry of Tribal Affairs, how it came about, how different acts and policies have brought in this, and how different organizations and institutions have been